Mr Deputy Speaker. Finally, it's official in this bill. The Government will break its triple lock promise to pensioners. State pension will not increase with earnings in 2022-23 after all. Well, we can hardly be surprised. The commitment to the triple lock can be filed under the same betrayal as the broken pledge not to raise national insurance and the same pledge to maintain the commitment to spend 0.7% of gross national income on development. And these broken pledges fly in the face of yet another pledge from the Prime Minister, the pledge, and I quote, to restore trust in our institutions and in how our democracy operates. I wonder if anybody in the Treasury bench can tell me how that's going. However, we're discussing the election bill later this evening, but we don't need to look at the election. We only need to look at the election bill to see what restoring trust is worth. Even the government realises, when you look at the contents of the election bill, even the government realised that with the assault on democracy that bill constitutes, it couldn't really call it the Electoral Integrity Bill anymore, because that really would be taking the mickey. But the fact is that this particular broken pledge of abandoning the triple lock means that the largest source of income for UK pensioners upon which they rely is an attack on their incomes. Recent indications show that the number of pensioners living in poverty is rising, and I wonder if the government benches can even begin to imagine the anger, the fury, the sense of betrayal from those women born in the 1950s, some of whom have only just qualified for their state pension after so many years of being robbed of it. They finally qualify for it, only to find yet a new betrayal, the abandonment of the triple lock. And that's why we on these benches seek to require the Secretary of State to assess and to be held accountable for the impact that this legislation will have on levels of poverty among pensioners in each of our constituencies. I will stand up for pensioners in North Ayrshire and Arran, just as all of my SNP colleagues will stand up for pensioners in their respective constituencies. That is what we have committed to do, and that is what we will do. It's a cause for shame that this cut is taking place full in the context of the fact that we in the UK have the lowest levels of proportion of pre-retirement wages of all our European neighbours. As my honourable friend from Glasgow East pointed out, UK pensioners receive around a quarter of the average working wage when they retire, whereas pensioners in Austria and Luxembourg receive 90% of the average working wage. When will the UK Government devote a similar percentage of its GDP and pensioner benefits to pensioner benefits as other advanced economies? The other element to this scandal is that it also takes place in the context of too many workers excluded from automatic enrolment into workplace pensions. And the failure to extend this, of course, impacts low earners and disproportionately impacts women, widening further the gender pensions gap. Why has this not been fully addressed? The state pension remains an important source of income for pensioners living in or at risk of poverty because of the very, very low uptake of pension credit. And I would like to ask the Treasury bench today what steps have been taken to increase uptake of pension credit, something I first raised 4 years ago. What's been done about that? I fear nothing has been done about that. So much for levelling up. The government says it's breaking the triple lock pledge because this year's earnings measure is, and I quote, skewed and distorted. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, I've heard people say the same thing about this government's priorities. Age UK has expressed real concern that this may not just be a one-off measure, but a sneaky way of ditching the triple lock altogether. And that might explain why there has been no impact assessment. Where is the impact assessment when we have 2 million pensioners living in poverty and the triple lock is abandoned? That is a staggering oversight and complacency on stilts towards pensioner poverty. And it's for all those reasons that I support the recent amendment from the SNP. This cut, falling on pensioners, will push more pensioners into poverty. The government knows this. It disadvantages women who are more likely to be poorer in retirement. The government knows this. And it is yet another kick in the teeth for WASPI women. Just like the universal credit cut, this government is imposing cuts which it knows will cause real financial distress, but it goes ahead anyway. What does that tell you, Mr Deputy Chair, about the vision of society that they have? The only conclusion which can be drawn is that it doesn't care about the people that it is supposed to serve. There is no other conclusion that can be drawn. This government has no interest in the greater good, only in sectional interests. And that's why inequality is rising. That's why inequality will continue to rise. No wonder, Mr Deputy Speaker, no wonder support for independence is rising. Increasingly, the people of Scotland want no more of this government. Scotland needs a government that governs for all of the people, with all of the powers of an independent country. And that is what the people of Scotland will choose.